Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 389. Thank you for joining me. We're going to pick up where we left off in the last podcast. We won't be getting back into the Jewish history and the Maccabean revolt in this podcast. Maybe in the next podcast, but it's all going to connect. That's why I've been telling the story of this Jewish history for so long, because I foresaw what we're going to be talking about today coming, and for a long time. I mean, I've been studying this stuff, and I've been watching and waiting for what is currently taking place for a long time. You know, I do this podcast every Friday and Monday, twice a week. I've been trying to lay it out. I had hoped that I would have been further along with telling the Jewish history. And you're going to see today why it is really relevant, all of that history that I've been telling you about the Babylonian exile, the conquering of the kingdom of Judah, the destruction of Solomon's temple, the rebuilding of the temple, the second temple period, all that stuff. You're going to see how it all ties together and why I've been telling that history. But we're going to get back into talking about the war in Iran, the war in the Middle East. It's not only in Iran, and it's not a war of combat infantry soldiers fighting each other in Iran. It's basically a bombing campaign. The United States and Israel are bombing targets inside Iran. Iran's bombing everybody. Iran's bombing wherever their drones and their missiles can reach. They're in the area. They're catching bombs from Iran. So it's basically a bombing war is what's going on. There are some reports of Kurdish forces from the north going in, but it's basically a bombing campaign. Now, the Congress they just had votes in both the Senate and in the House of Representatives to invoke a war powers resolution to stop Trump from executing this war. It failed in the Senate, and it failed narrowly in the House of Representatives. But while they were giving their testimony and having these hearings 2 days ago, this Marine in his Marine uniform disturbed the hearing, and he was kicked out. And if you haven't seen it by now, I'm getting ready to show it to you. It went viral. This Marine saying that nobody wants to die for Israel. Nobody wants to die for Israel is what he says. Take a listen.
The reason for this war. America does not want to fight this war for Israel.
Let's go. Come on, let's go.
America doesn't want to fight this war for Israel.
America does not want to send its sons and daughters to war for Israel. Your inability to name that shows your exemptness as leaders. This is wrong. No. And nobody wants to fight for Israel.
What a clown. What a clown. In his Marine uniform, again, it went viral, and he says over again, nobody wants to fight for Israel, that this war is for Israel. Showed you in the last podcast that that's ridiculous, that many of the Gulf nations have been gearing up for this. I wish I had that clip of Mohammed bin Salman. I have it here, but I don't want to waste time in playing it because I have so much to share with you guys. But Saudi Arabia wanted this. There are other Gulf nations that want to explain that all to you in the last podcast. But this narrative of that this is only about Israel, and the reason that America has gotten drawn into this is about Israel, and this is all for Israel and to protect Israel is something that is being widely disseminated, and you're going to see here that it's going everywhere. Now, this guy, this Marine, you can see him here with his Muslim wife. They say that she's a Palestinian. He's got the keffiyeh scarf on. So he is a Palestinian activist, 100%. This is him in his own words. He's there in his Marine uniform at the congressional hearing, disrupting the congressional hearing, saying that this is all about Israel, all about Israel. I mean, why are you in your Marine uniform when you're disrupting the hearing? Why aren't you wearing your keffiyeh there? I mean, this image would be a lot different if he was in his Marine uniform with his keffiyeh hanging around his neck. But that's what I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but this is all the most important and effective weapons of war in the 21st century is propaganda and messaging. I mean, propaganda and messaging has always been a important weapon of war. But today, in the 21st century, in this 21st century world where people are getting fed propaganda from each side, and messaging from each side, and that moves people, and people move nations and make decisions. Propaganda is very effective, and it would have been different. This guy's picture and his video has gone viral. And gone everywhere, but it would be different. It would give a different message if he was wearing his keffiyeh around his uniform, like he does in all his, pictures online. He's got his keffiyeh there. So he's a Palestinian activist, and he's there disrupting the congressional hearings, getting thrown out, saying over and over again, nobody wants to die for Israel, that this is about Israel. Take a listen to him. This is his videos.
Congratulations to Hamas and
congratulations to Hamas. Congratulations to Hamas is what he says. This is it. This is the Marine that's disrupting Congress while they're debating over war powers.
Congratulations to Hamas and the Gazans for repelling their oppressor, the Israelis, and causing the ceasefire. We must, as Palestinian supporters, watch this deal roll out and make sure it's
Palestinian supporters. So notice how he says, "Congratulations, Hamas. I'm a Palestinian supporter." That the two are synonymous. If you support Palestine, then you support Hamas. And this is the Marine that went viral. Nobody wants to die for Israel. This narrative has really taken root within the conservative and MAGA movement. Quite frankly, people like Tucker Carlson have insinuated that this is all for Israel. Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, many have insinuated that this is all for Israel. And like I said, it has really taken root culturally. This young lady was an employee. She was an employee, but got fired at a Smoothie King establishment in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And she was fired because a couple came in to get a smoothie, and she said that she didn't feel comfortable serving them because he was wearing a sweatshirt or a hoodie that said Trump on it. So she didn't feel comfortable serving a Trump supporter. If you watch the video, because she records herself while she's refusing them service, and that went viral. And then in this video, she's going to talk about how she went viral and everything. But in the video where she's recording herself refusing service to these people because the guy had a Trump hoodie on, she says, didn't Trump just start a war with Iran? So she says that in that video. And then after she's fired and gone viral and this story goes everywhere, she puts out this video, and watch what she says.
I'm just going to explain what happened yesterday at Smoothie King Ann Arbor. So basically, it was really busy the whole day. It was just me and my other coworker. And basically, this couple comes in the midst of it being like super busy, so we cannot attend to them right away. We're just like, hello, we'll be with you in a moment. And they're just giving us really weird looks. And so like, we're kind of looking at them back, like, what's going on? And that's when we realized they're wearing Trump merch. And that's when my coworker says to me, like, that, like, this is making me uncomfortable. Like, this is weird. Like, because mind you, it was really the day right after Black History Month.
It's a hoodie.
And that's when Torta asked us if there was an issue, and that's when my coworker said, like, yeah, we're uncomfortable because of your sweater, of your husband's sweater, and she was taking an order on the headset for the drive-through, and then so that's why I was doing most of the talking, because you know she was attending to the customer, so that's why, like, yeah, like we are uncomfortable. And then that's when he immediately gets loud. As you can see, guys, in my video, we're just saying, like, yeah, like, we're uncomfortable, blah 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 blah, and then he immediately gets loud, like, discrimination, you're discriminating against us. And that's when we start to get loud, because like this grown man is getting loud at us, and you know he's probably so angry because he is an ex-meth head, okay? And yeah, like, I told them, like, as you guys can see in my video, I said, we have the right to refuse service, have a good day. They did not want to listen to that. Like, have a good day, SpongeBob Big Guy Pants, okay? Like, I'm not really sure what else to tell you guys, so that's why I kept repeating, have a good day, thank you. And then they started, like, asking us for our names, like, saying that they were going to call the police on us, and it's just like, baby, you said you were going to leave, so what are you still doing here? The door, okay? Okay, and now everybody's attacking me online, all the goys. News stations have picked this up. I'm trending on every social media platform. It's not like, guys, like, we just gotta lock in and wake up. It's not about Trump. It's not about Biden. Baby, Israel. Israel's the real issue here, okay? We all need to just wake up and accept.
So that's a minute and a half video, minute and 49 seconds. It's, you know, she's explaining herself, but she gets to the end and she's saying, you know, it's not about Trump, although she wouldn't serve the guy with the Trump merch on. But as she says, it's not about Trump. It's not about Biden. Why would you even, you know, bring Biden up? He's gone. It's not about Trump. It's not about Biden. It's about Israel. Now, I would be willing to bet, I mean, and I'm being serious about this, I would bet real money that if someone put a gun to this woman's head and put a map in front of her and asked her, it said that if your life depends on it right now, if you can't point to Israel on this map, then you're gonna be dead. I guarantee you she couldn't point to Israel on the map to save her life. But for some reason, it's not about Biden, it's not about Trump, it's about Israel. She believes this, and this is what I'm saying. Even though you're hearing it from many voices right now, voices that probably are a lot more intelligent than her, that this has filtered down into the culture, into the crevices of society, who think that they know what they're talking about, and that this is all about Israel, and this is some Israeli plot. Israel's pulling the strings. Israel's taking us to war. That's the narrative going on. It's repeated over and over again. And I want to talk about that. I think that it's very important to talk about that and where that's coming from. Now, this is Lindsey Graham. This clip of Lindsey Graham went viral this week, and take a listen to what Lindsey Graham has to say.
This is a religious war.
This is a religious war. He's talking about the war that we're engaged in right now, the military action that we're engaged in right now with Iran. Lindsey Graham says this is a religious war. Now, what religion does Lindsey Graham practice? I don't say, what does he claim to be? Practice. What religion does Lindsey Graham practice? But he's saying that this is a religious war. It's a spiritual war. It's very spiritual. I'll tell you that. But this is a religious war. This is coming from a United States senator. He's not the only one. And what I want you to understand, people, that the mullahs in Iran are religious, fanatical zealots, Islamic fundamental zealots, but they are not the only religious, fanatical zealots that are engaged in this war. There are Christian zealots, religious zealots, and fundamentalists, and there are Jewish zealots and fundamentalists, and that are just as bad as the mullahs. The only difference is the really reason that the mullahs and Islamic fundamentalism and zealots are different from Christian and Jewish zealots, and it's just a little bit different because throughout history, I was going to say that today, that because of martyrdom and the idea of martyrdom in Islam, that the Islamic zealots and fundamentalists do a lot more killing. But throughout history, there's been a lot of killing from the Jewish zealots and fundamentalists and the Christian zealots and fundamentalists. So just making sure that you understand that's a theme that's going on in this podcast that I'm going to talk about, that the mullahs are religious fundamentalists and zealots, and but they're also Christian fundamentalists and zealots, and they're also Jewish fundamentalists and zealots. Just wanted to clear that up. Lindsey Graham, I don't know what religion he practices, but he says that the war we're engaged in, United States Senator, saying that the war we're engaged in with Iran is a religious war.
This is a religious war. Who wins it at the end of the day? Do the radical Islamic terrorists who want to kill all the Jews because God told them to? Who want to kill me because I'm an infidel? Who want to purify Islam, to reject moderation and make everybody a jihadist? This is a big deal. I'll deal with Section 230. So what we're facing right now is a moment of decision that will set the course of the future of the Mideast for 1,000 years.
This is a religious war, and what we are faced with will set the course for the Middle East for 1,000 years. This is a religious war. Senator Lindsey Graham says this. So again, propaganda is very, very important in this war, and it's one of the most important weapons in modern warfare. Propaganda, without a doubt. And the Iranians are definitely engaged in the propaganda war. They're not just firing missiles into Tel Aviv. They're not just, using proxies and other methods of warfare. They're also very, very heavily involved in propaganda war and putting out propaganda. And when this video came out, that's when this realization came to me, how effective their PR and propaganda team is, that they probably have English speaking, members of the IRG that, or their intelligence team, that understand, what's going on in the United States as far as the news, how to divide, people in the United States. They understand, their, English-speaking intelligence. They understand that MAGA is divided. They understand the issues that are dividing MAGA. They understand, they're reading, the paper and understand that the Epstein files and how, the Epstein files have really galvanized, the United States in, the last year. They understand all that. They understand, and they're using that as a tool of propaganda in their messaging. And nothing demonstrates that more than this video that you're looking at on the screen. Now, this video was put out and people started sharing it. They started cutting it up and sharing bits and pieces of it. Oh, look, they're in Iran. They're burning a statue of Baal, and they have the statue of Baal. They have the people there in Tehran, all gathered around. That's all organized. They all put this together, and you can tell the way they're filming it. You can tell the way they're filming this, and the dramatic music. You can tell the way that they edit it. I mean, this is some dialed in editing here. This is coming from the regime, people. Now, at the same time, the regime and the mullahs are putting out propaganda videos like this. And this is just one video. This came out a few weeks ago, and it came out simultaneously. This video came out simultaneously with the release of Epstein files and the explosive revelations after the recent dump of Epstein files. So they put this out with that. So people are already thinking about, things like, you had Bill Maher on his show saying, I owe the QAnons a apology. What's the QAnon message is that a satanic pedophile ring is, raping kids and Pizzagate and all of that. So they put that out. They put this video out at the same time those revelations are coming out. And if you think that was accident, then you don't understand propaganda. And this is very effective propaganda that is coming from the Iranian government. And when I saw this let me know that they are engaged in a very high level, and it's not that high level once you realize what's going on. But if you're not me and understand this stuff and see this stuff, I mean, because many conservatives were sharing this. Many Republicans were sharing this. Oh, look, they're burning the statue of Baal, which is Baal is a ancient Canaanite god that they used to sacrifice children to. He's basically aligned with Satan, with the devil. And so the messaging is that the Satanists in the Epstein files are running your country. Yeah, they are running our country, but they're running your country too. It's like the mullahs don't worship Satan. Get out of here. But this is very effective. Look at the way they filmed this and the music and everything. So it's the statue of Baal. It has the Star of David here, the 6-pointed star. I mean, this is very effective. Everything you could just tell. So I was going to get to, so the way that they edit this and put this together and the regime is putting this out at the same time, the internet is shut down. We talked about this in the last podcast. The internet all over the country is shut down. They won't allow any of the regular citizens that are under their totalitarian rule communicate with the world and tell their stories about what's going on. But at the same time, they won't allow the people to communicate with the world. They're putting out these propaganda videos like this, highly edited. I mean, this came from the regime. This is not coming from the people. This is coming from the regime. The regime gathered all of these people together in Tehran. With the regime put this statue up. The regime filmed this and edited this. Look at this. The Israeli flag. So this is the other flag was the 6-point star, but this is the 5-point star, the dog star, Sirius, upside down. The goat of Maldives with the 666. Oh my God, this is very effective propaganda. Then the obelisk. And then the Islamic flag. Look at the way it's edited with the slow motion, the music. This all came from the regime. All right. I don't have much time. So then they burn the statue of Baal and throw rocks at it. This has all come from the regime. The regime is putting out mass propaganda right now, people. Mass propaganda. I found, and there's many of these Twitter pages, X pages like this. It says Iran update. Now you can look and see that this website, the Iran updates was created in February of 2024. So they just created this 2 years ago. It's been verified since February of 2026. So it's only been verified. So they created this site on X in February of 2024, but 2 years later, right in time for what's going on right now, February 2026, then they verify. They are verified, and I think they verify you once you cross a certain number of followers. See, they have nearly 35,000 followers. But it's called Iran Updates. Also, you can see that I love that X does this, but it shows you where the account is based, and that's out of South Asia. So Iran is in South Asia, could be Pakistan, could be any of those regions. But just the propaganda that they're putting out, highly edited, very effective. There's some of the stuff that they're putting out. I mean, all this stuff coming from coming from within the country of Iran is highly controlled. Like I said, they have the internet shut down. They won't let anyone communicate with the outside world. So if there's any images and messages coming out from Iran, then the regime is controlling it. I'm going to find the one. He's been posting a lot. This guy's been posting a lot, whoever's running this account. And it's all just Iran propaganda. So this is a video they put out. So it's complete propaganda. Complete propaganda. I wanted to show you this. So this is someone from in the country doing interviews in Tehran with supporters of the regime that are mourning the murder of the Ayatollah, or martyrdom, to be correct, because it wasn't a murder. He was martyred. So she's going around. This is 100% propaganda. She's going around and she's asking, because you've seen all the images of the Iranians throughout the diaspora in England, in Germany, here in the United States, celebrating, doing the Trump dance. They're so happy that the Ayatollah has been killed. So she's going around in Iran and she's asking like everyday citizens, I guess, just like the man on the street. We're doing the man on the street in Iran. So she's going around Tehran doing the man on the street, asking people, showing them pictures of Iranians in the diaspora outside of the country, in London, in Melbourne, in Los Angeles, celebrating in New York, celebrating. And she's asking the people on the streets, man on the street here, how they feel about seeing other Iranians throughout the country celebrating while their country's being bombed. And they're all, saying, I can't believe that they're Iranians and they would celebrate the country being bombed. This is 100% propaganda, people, because again, this is highly controlled by the regime. This video would not be out unless the regime put it out, because the regime is controlling information and restricting information from everyday Iranians. I mean, why don't you just open up the internet and let's hear from the people in Iran what they have to say if they're upset about the bombing campaign and what's going on with killing the Ayatollah. You just turn on the internet. Let us hear from everybody. Why are you picking these few people in this edited video coming out from the regime to give us the message from within Iran? Just turn on the internet and let the people just tell us what they think themselves.
این خوشحالی حمله به ایرانه؟
اصلا نمیخوایم وحشی‌ها رو ببینم. اینجا تهران روز ششم جنگه.
بعید میدونم ایرانی باشن.
مادر و پدر و فامیل خودت دارن تو این کشور زندگی میکنن. ایرانی ها؟ آره.
نمیدونم اینا دلشون به کی خوشه.
Why are they happy? Why are they happy? They have relatives in the country. They shouldn't be happy. So it's all propaganda. So I tell you that to tell you that Iran is they are very, I don't want to say sophisticated because I don't think this stuff is sophisticated, but I guess you could say it is. The point, I'll make it this. They're putting a lot of resources and a lot of effort, and who knows what the scale of their resources in the propaganda war are, but they're putting out a lot of propaganda and you see it everywhere. And a lot of it is feeding into what is going on in the United States and what is dividing us in the United States and the messaging here in the United States. Again, with the Bao statue and everything feeding into the whole idea of the Satanists running the country, the Epstein people raping kids, drinking blood, all that stuff from the QAnon. I'm not saying that's not real at all, but I'm just saying that they're playing into it. They know that messaging has taken root within the culture. Again, within the culture, they know that this is something that the culture is talking about, and so they're playing into that with their propaganda. Just want to make that clear. And the videos like Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, saying that this is a religious war and we're engaged in a religious war, that feeds into what they're doing too. Feeds into all of that. And that narrative is that, what is Lindsey Graham talking about when he says that this is a religious war? What are you talking about? This is another senator from, I think, North Dakota, South Dakota, one of the Dakotas. And he's being confronted by one of the women from Code Pink. And listen to what he says. This feeds into it.
The United States and Israel are ironclad partners. We need them in the Middle East. We need them to be strong. We have a biblical responsibility to them as well as an allied responsibility.
We have a biblical responsibility. Now, okay, I get it. The Christian Zionist preachers at the mega churches saying this. I get it that John Hagee can say this and the others, but this is a United States senator. This is a United States senator and Lindsey Graham too, a United States senator, saying that this is a religious war and that we have a biblical obligation to stand with Israel. This feeds into all of that. This feeds into the message that we're doing it for Israel. This is about Israel.
Listen, The United States and Israel are ironclad partners. We need them in the Middle East. We need them to be strong. We have a biblical responsibility to them as well as an allied responsibility to Israel. We should never sever that relationship, particularly to the benefit of killers like Iran.
Well, is that your office? Is that the flag right there?
This guy says we have a biblical responsibility to Israel. And here he is, a U.S. senator, with an Israeli flag outside his office. So,
Kevin Kramer.
For Senator Kevin Kramer, what the F? Are you representing the interests of the U.S. where the vast...
So, yeah. Anyway. So again, that's why we have been talking about the Second Temple period, because I think that, and talking about the Jewish history that we've been talking about over the past few months in general, because I think that it's very relevant that you understand this stuff. It's very relevant to things that are going on right now. And it's all about the temple, people. It's all about the temple. That's why I started this podcast talking about Solomon's temple, talking about the esoteric beliefs around Solomon's temple and Freemasonry and other esoteric circles that it's all about Solomon's temple. We talked about Solomon's temple and why it was built. Talked about what happened when the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah split, and how that separated the northern 10 tribes from the temple in Jerusalem, because the temple was in the southern kingdom of Judah. Talked about the Babylonian captivity and the temple being destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. And then we talked about the Persian king Cyrus the Great coming along and conquering the conquering the Babylonians and establishing the Medo-Persian Empire, and then releasing the Jews from captivity, allowing a small group with Zerubbabel to go back to Jerusalem, but to go back with a specific purpose. The purpose was to build the temple, not only to rebuild the city, but to rebuild the temple. It's all over the Bible. It's all over the scriptures. We've talked about all of that. And then Zerubbabel builds the temple, and that's what begins what is known as the Second Temple period, the 600 years between the building of the Second Temple and the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. And you can see here, it says right here that, and I've read the passages in the Bible as well that talk about the decree of Cyrus, that it was issued by the after the Persians conquered Neo-Babylonian Empire, after the fall of Babylon, described in the Tanakh, which claims it authorized and encouraged the return to Zion. That this is the second Zionist movement. I said that my definition of Zionism is the migration from other parts of the world of Jews into Zion. Zion is a place. Zion is a place in Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, to be exact. And the migration of Jews from outside of Zion, outside of Jerusalem, into that land is what Zionism is. And there have been 3 Zionist movements. We're currently living through one Zionist movement. This return after the Babylonian exile was a Zionist movement. And then the first Zionist movement is when Moses leads the children of Israel out of Egypt through the wilderness to the Jordan, and Joshua leads them into Zion. So the purpose of the decree of Cyrus was for Zerubbabel not only to go back and rebuild the city of Jerusalem, but also rebuild the temple. The second and the third, as you're going to see today, the second and the third Zionist movements, and the first Zionist movement led to the building of Solomon's temple. The second Zionist movement led to the building of Zerubbabel's temple. And we'll see who's going to get the name of the third temple when it's built. But the third Zionist movement, the end goal is the temple. Without a doubt, the end goal is the temple of the third Zionist movement. And That's why we've been talking about all this. It's all about the temple. That's why we've been talking about the Maccabean revolt and how the Maccabean revolt happened when Antiochus Epiphanes goes into the temple, desecrates the temple. It's all about the temple. We talked about, we'll get back into this history of the Maccabean revolt because it's very relevant. You're going to have to understand all of this stuff to understand the lead up into, and then the clip that we're getting ready to listen to. We're ready to listen to this guy. This guy has just been throwing fire bombs, man. Fire bombs. Tucker has been very mischievous lately. This guy, I don't know what's up with this guy. I tell you, the interview with Mike Huckabee. I mean, this guy he started out with the interview with Ted Cruz, just exposing these guys. Like, I mean, again, Ted Cruz, a senator. Ted Cruz, I guarantee he said the exact same thing that you heard Lindsey Graham and that senator from North Dakota that we were just listening to say. And so, I mean, Tucker Carlson has become enemy number one because he's got a huge platform and he's been exposing these guys, and he hasn't been getting it all right. I mean, this last week when the war in Iran started, he made a huge mishap, and he's made mishaps. But I mean, I've been defending this guy, and I was really upset that he came out with that information about Mossad agents. He said Mossad agents were arrested in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and that they were planning false flag attacks is what he basically got to. And then the government of Qatar came out and said that's not true, and he's got egg on his face. And quite frankly, with the type of enemies that he's making and what this guy is saying, you gotta, dot your I's and cross your T's, and everything needs to be dialed in, Tucker. You can't be making mistakes like that. But this guy has really been bringing a lot of conversations to light that that have been buried for a long time, that people have not wanted to talk about. And this week he did this monologue talking about the rebuilding of the third temple, and I have to react to it and share some things that that he absolutely gets right. He absolutely gets right, and I want to bring more context to what Tucker Carlson is saying here, because I think that it's very important. And this is stuff that I've known for a long time. It's really interesting because I think that's why Tucker Carlson is making mishaps. It's because all this stuff's new to him. It seems like that he's just learning this stuff. This stuff about the third temple and greater Israel and all this stuff I've known forever. The esoteric stuff, I've been studying this stuff forever. The biblical stuff, all my life, I've been studying this stuff. That I really understand this stuff. Tucker Carlson used to support the Iraq War when we first invaded Iraq in 2003. He's made the change. He's come to my side. He's now questioning the facts about 9/11. I've been questioning the facts about 9/11 for 25 years, So he's coming to my side, and it seems like these revelations that he's just learning this stuff, and so he's talking about it on his show. He has this huge platform, but it's bringing these conversations into light, and more people are talking about it, and these are important conversations. So I thank Tucker for that. Let's listen to what Tucker Carlson said in his monologue the other night.
So you often hear people talk about the Middle East crisis, and they usually mean energy. People want the oil, the gas. But traditionally, when people have talked about the Middle East, they're talking about Jerusalem. We're talking about the holiest spot on earth. Let's be a lot more specific when we say the holiest spot on earth. The holiest spot on earth is something called the foundation stone. The foundation stone is literally a rock in Jerusalem on what used to be called Mount Moriah, which was at one point the highest place in the oldest part of Jerusalem. And it's on that spot, on that rock, on that stone, that Jews believe the world began, that the Old Testament, or the Jewish Torah, tells us that Abraham brought Isaac bound to be sacrificed to God. It's on that spot that Muslims believe that the Prophet Muhammad ascended into heaven. And of course, it's right nearby that Christians believe Jesus was crucified and then rose to heaven. So on that spot, or right nearby, a lot has happened. But critically on that spot, because it was the place where Abraham brought Isaac, and again, to American ears, this sounds weird, but to the rest of the world, it's like, yeah, everyone knows this because it's the center of their lives. On that spot, Solomon built his famous temple. Now, in the Torah, it says pretty clearly, and correct me if I'm misreading it, that Jews, followers of God, can only publicly worship God and sacrifice on that spot, in that city, Jerusalem, on that spot. And on that spot was built a temple, the first temple. And that was destroyed by the Babylonians, famously. And then it was rebuilt and later improved by Herod. And it was, at its completion, I think, the largest building, certainly the largest religious building in the ancient world. And it was in that building that Jesus preached, in what we call the second temple that Jesus preached, the very center of Judaism, building without which you can't really have Torah Judaism. The religion just didn't work without it. By its own terms, in its own book, it said that.
Absolutely right. I just want to stop right here. We'll get back to this, but when he says that Herod rebuilt the temple, so he's talking about the second temple period. Zerubbabel comes out of Babylonian exile and then builds the temple, but Herod the Great. And this is why we're talking about the Maccabean revolt, which leads to the Hasmonean dynasty, and that the Hasmonean dynasty ends and leads to Herod the Great, and Herod the Great is the one who rebuilds the temple, and he reconstructs the temple, and then his son, who is also called Herod, is when Jesus is born. His son, who is also called Herod, is the one who beheads John the Baptist. So the temple is central to Judaism. Absolutely, 100%. It's the most important. That now he says that they're not able to sacrifice anywhere else. That's not necessarily true. You'll see the crowds of Jews in Jewish neighborhoods in New York and all over the world during Yom Kippur in the fall, with the chickens that they put over their head and all that stuff. That's all a substitute. They're still doing the sacrifices during Yom Kippur. They're doing I forget the name of it, when they put the chicken over their head and then they slaughter the chickens. They're still doing that, but that's all a substitute for what has to happen at this spot, at Temple Mount. This is what Judaism's all about. And there's only one purpose of the temple, is for sacrifices. For remission of sins. That they believe this is the system that God set up, that for you to atone, that's what Yom Kippur stands for, and means, is for you to atone for your sins, there must be sacrifices. So the only way that they can sacrifice and have real sacrifices is to set up a temple, a new holiest of holies. And so that is the mission, the overall mission for a sect of Jews. Not all Jews. Not all Jews believe in this stuff. Not all Jews want a second temple. Not all Jews care about this. But there are a sect of Jews, a group. I don't know how big they are, how small they are. But like I said, Islam has them, Christians has them, the Jewish religion has them. Everybody has religious zealots and fanatics. So there are a small group of Jews. I don't know if they're small, but there are a group of Jews who believe in all this stuff and believe that the second temple needs to be rebuilt so sacrifices could continue.
Largest religious building in the ancient world. And it was in that building that Jesus preached, in what we call the second temple that Jesus preached, the very center of Judaism, building without which you can't really have Torah Judaism. The religion just didn't work without it. By its own terms, in its own book, it said that. And during one of his sermons, in that sermon, Jesus, who Christians believe is God sent to earth, says, this will be torn down. Not one stone will be left standing.
He absolutely does.
And it was shortly after that he was put on trial in the middle of the night and tortured to death.
So he's absolutely right. What Tucker says there, that right here in John, this is when Jesus rides into so this gets us back to what we were talking about with the Maccabean revolt. Now, I was telling you how during this time, during the Second Temple period, and like we were talking about, the reason that the Maccabean revolt happened was because of these two different factions of Jews that were fighting each other for the position of high priest. The high priest was a spiritual and political leader of Judea, and you had these two different factions, and the factions were based on the people in the rural areas and the small towns around Jerusalem who were more orthodox, more religious, and more devout, and they were battling the more secular, even polytheistic, Hellenistic Jews from within the city, within the urban area of Jerusalem. Like Jerusalem was this urban cesspool, like the cities in the United States today. Cities just tend to be these cesspools, and that's what Jerusalem was. So Jesus is going around throughout all of the area of Jerusalem in this outside rural areas, and people are flocking to him and accepting him. But then when he goes into Jerusalem, into that cesspool, that's a different story. And so what Tucker is saying here is absolutely right. When Jesus comes in to Jerusalem that final time, when he is arrested in Jerusalem, he's tried in Jerusalem, he's tortured in Jerusalem, he's crucified in Jerusalem. When he rides in that last time, he actually says it. Right here. Look at what he says in Luke. I have it right here. Luke, the 19th chapter. This is when he rides into the city triumphantly. This is when the when they lay the palms out and he presents himself as king. It's very important. Very important. Blessed is the king who comes in the name of the Lord. And the whole crowd there is cheering for him and everything. And then Jesus weeps over Jerusalem, and because of the Sanhedrin and those who are getting ready to crucify him. And it says right here, and when he drew near, he saw the city and he wept over it, cried over the city. And this is in quotes, Jesus saying that would that you, Jews, even you should know this, have known this day the things that make for peace, but now they're hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you that your enemies will set up a barricade around you. This is when he's predicting the Titus Vespasian coming in 70 AD and barricading around you and surround you and hem you up on every side and tear down to the ground you, your children within you, and will not leave a stone without another in you, because you did not know the time of your visitation, because you did not realize that the Messiah had come. This is what Jesus is saying. So Tucker is absolutely right. Tucker is absolutely right. And then he says that again, it's repeated in the other gospel. Jesus answered to them, talking about, this is what Tucker getting ready. I'll leave this part because Tucker's getting ready to get into this part. Let's listen to Tucker some more.
Earth says this will be torn down. Not one stone will be left standing. And it was shortly after that he was put on trial in the middle of the night and tortured to death, crucified. As it happens, so that's the religion. Here's the history. About 35 years later, 37 years later, in that range, in 70 AD, Titus, the emperor of the Roman Empire, got into quite a conflict with the Jews of Judea and Jerusalem. And it's complex and incredibly brutal, but the bottom line was, in AD 70, the Romans besieged Jerusalem, finally broke through the walls, and tore that temple stone from stone. Not a single stone left upon another.
Just like Jesus had predicted 40 years earlier. Again, that's why we're talking about the Maccabean revolt. Like I was saying, that the Maccabean revolt was the first revolt of many revolts over 300 years going into the Roman rule, and that they continued to revolt against the Romans. And when Titus came in 70 AD, it was just to put an end to all of this revolt for 200 years, we've been battling you guys, and you guys have been revolting against us. You've been such a headache for the Roman Empire. That's why Titus destroyed the temple, and the dispute that Tucker is talking about, that the Maccabean revolt was the first revolt of the Jews that led to all of these revolts that go on through the next 300 years to the Bar Kokhba revolt, which happened 70 years after the destruction of the temple. So even after the temple is destroyed, they continue to revolt over and over again. So that's the whole reason that's the historical reason. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the Bible. I don't believe in any of that stuff. The reason that Titus went in and destroyed the temple in 70 AD is because the Jews were such a headache because they kept revolting. Biblically, if you do believe in the Bible and you do believe in the spiritual stuff, biblically, why did the temple, the second temple, why was it destroyed? Because Jesus says right here, because you did not recognize the time of your visitation. That's why it was destroyed. Spiritually, it was destroyed because you did not recognize the time of your visitation. That's what Jesus. Now, historically, and the practical reason that it was destroyed is because the Jews are such a headache, and that the Romans were tired of them rebelling and revolting against them. Biblically, it's because they did not recognize the time of their visitation, and Jesus said that because of that, then the temple is going to be destroyed. All right, more Tucker here. I can see, guys, I have so much to share with you guys that I can see right now that I have time to get to all this stuff that I want to share to you guys about this. And I have some really good clips for you guys. Going to have to pick it up in the next podcast, but let's do as much as we can here. Let's listen to more Tucker.
Besieged Jerusalem, finally broke through the wall. Incredibly brutal, but the bottom line was in AD 70, the Romans besieged Jerusalem, finally broke through the walls, and tore that temple stone from stone. Not a single stone left upon another. Really a kind of dedication to destruction that's hard for the modern mind to imagine. We talk about genocide that. The Romans tried to genocide the Jews for real. And they succeeded in destroying the temple. And with it, Temple Judaism, Torah Judaism. You can't have the religion that existed before AD 70, after AD 70, because there's no temple. And so this has been an open wound for 2,000 years, and certainly understandably, people have wanted to rebuild the temple, to build what they call the third temple, to reestablish this religion at its birthplace. There are a couple problems with this. One, exactly 500 years after Titus destroyed the temple in AD 70, in AD 570, a man called Muhammad was born in Mecca and built one of the world's great religions, the world's second largest religion, as it stands today, in a very short period. His name was Muhammad. He was born in Mecca. He died in nearby Medina. But in the meantime, he built, or inspired the building of, within 50 years of his death, one of the great religious monuments in the world, certainly one of the prettiest, called the Dome of the Rock. And it's in Jerusalem on Moriah, in fact, built over the foundation stone. And if you've ever been to Jerusalem, or if you've ever seen photographs of it, you will remember vividly a gold dome. It's called the Dome of the Rock. Why is it called that? Because there's a rock underneath it, the foundation stone, that is built on the site of the Second Temple. And that's in what's known as the Al-Aqsa complex. There's a mosque next door called the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And that spot is one of three holy places, apparently co-equal holy places, in Islam, Mecca.
So he's just realizing this, and Tucker just learned this, like I said, so he didn't know this stuff, but he says that this spot, the mosque at the Dome of the Rock on Temple Mount, is one of the three most holiest spots, co-equally in their holiness, three of the most important spots in all of Islam, no matter if you're Shia, no matter if you are Sunni Muslim, that no matter, part of Muslim, this is so central to Muslims' beliefs and their tenets that these three spots are are holy to Muslims. Why? Well, what are the three spots? Well, the first spot is Mecca. Why is Mecca holy? Is because that's where the Kaaba is. They believe that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba in Mecca. Muhammad was born in Mecca. Muhammad, and then why is Medina important? Is because Muhammad fled to Medina. Medina is where Muhammad becomes the prophet and builds his army, kills a bunch of Jews, and then goes back to Mecca. So those are in current day Saudi Arabia, and those why those two spots are the holiest shrines. But why is the Dome of the Rock the third holiest shrine equal to Mecca and Medina? Well, the reason why is because the story of Isra. The story of Isra is what is known as the night journey, where Muhammad tells this story, and they just believe him, that in one night, this magical horse named Barack Hussein Obama, this magical horse takes Muhammad in one night from, I don't know if he was in Mecca or Medina when he started the night journey, but he from current Saudi Arabia, Barack takes Muhammad to this spot in Jerusalem, Temple Mount. And this is when Muhammad ascends to heaven. And when he ascends to heaven, who's there? Moses, Jesus, Abraham, God are there. And that's when God gives Muhammad what is called the Shahada. The Shahada is the statement of faith that every Muslim has to make to be Muslim, that there's no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet. That's the story that they tell. It all supposedly happened here. It is central. No Muslim is a Muslim without reciting the Shahada. The Shahada happened at this point, at Temple Mount. This is central to Islam. You can't be a Muslim without reciting the Shahada, and it all happened. Here is what they say in this night journey, where Muhammad takes the horse Barack all the way from Mecca, Medina, to Saudi Arabia, and it's called the story of Isra. I mean, from current day Saudi Arabia to Jerusalem, to that spot, and that's where he gets the message from God. Very central to their faith. This is Barack Obama, and after he was elected in 2009, he goes to Egypt and he gives this grand speech to the Muslim world, and he says this. Take a listen.
We cannot impose peace, but privately, many Muslims recognize that Israel will not go away. Likewise, many Israelis recognize the need for a Palestinian state. It is time for us to act on what everyone knows to be true. Too many tears have been shed. Too much blood has been shed. All of us have a responsibility to work for the day when the mothers of Israelis and Palestinians can see their children grow up without fear. When the Holy Land of the three great faiths is the place of peace that God intended it to be. When Jerusalem is a secure and lasting home for Jews and Christians and Muslims, and a place for all of the children of Abraham to mingle peacefully together, as in the story of Isra. As in the story of Isra, when Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them, joined in prayer.
So where Joseph, Muhammad, and Moses, where they join in prayer, and the story of Isra is right here on Temple Mount. So that is why this is a very important shrine, as equal as Mecca is equal to Mecca. That's why this mosque is as important as Mecca, and what Tucker's talking about here. More Tucker here. Take a listen.
In what's known as the Al-Aqsa complex, there's a mosque next door called the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And that spot is one of three holy places, apparently co-equal holy places, in Islam: Mecca, Medina, Dome of the Rock, Al-Aqsa. So that is at the very center of Judaism. I mean, physically the center of Judaism, that spot, that exact spot over the foundation stone, and Islam. And it has been occupied by a mosque. A mosque has been sitting there since the 7th century, since the late 600s. Amazing. You may be dimly aware of this. Now, why go on at length about this? Because now is the moment, right now, like this week, is the moment that some people, not a huge number, most people, Christians, Jews, Muslims, are not fully aware of all this.
I think this is very important what Tucker says there, that caveat. You have to listen to what he's saying. So he says it's some people. It's some people. It's not all Christians. It's not all Jews. It's not all Muslims, but some people, a small group of people, these religious zealots, these religious fundamentalists, these religious fanatics in Christianity, in Islam, in Judaism, that it's a small group of these people, and they're the one pushing this. And Tucker Carlson says that. It's not everybody. It's not all Christians. It's not all Jews. It's not all Muslims. There's a small group of these fanatics, these religious zealots, and each one of these groups, they're the ones pushing this.
Now, why go on at length about this? Because now is the moment, right now, like this week, is the moment that some people, not a huge number, most people, Christians, Jews, Muslims, are not fully aware of all this.
That's exactly right.
But some people are highly aware of it and would like to begin the process of tearing down the Dome of the Rock, tearing down Al-Aqsa Mosque, and rebuilding the Third Temple. Now, there are a lot of things to say about this, about its likelihood, the potential effects of it. But first, just a quick side note on the theology of this from a Christian point of view. Now, it was Jesus who said this temple will be torn down, shocking everyone around him. If it's in the Gospels, it's in at least a couple of the Gospels. And the people who heard it just couldn't believe it. And of course, the people running the temple, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, were gravely offended by it. Why wouldn't they be? But then it happened. Less than 40 years later, it actually happened. He was right. He called it. And so from a Christian perspective, he did that. God called for the destruction of the temple.
Exactly.
And as Jesus says plainly in the Gospels, I'm the temple. I'm the temple now. The temple will be rebuilt after 3 days. When I'm resurrected, I am the new temple.
Yeah, Jesus said all of that. We're going to get into that part in the next podcast. The theological questions. We're going to pick it right back up from here in the next podcast. And I have a lot more to share with you guys. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.